Hi, this is Gary Pihl from the band Alliance.
Gary Pihl, I'm really glad you gave us a call. And Alliance, very good work you guys did on the Fire and Grace. Sound quality is very nice also.
Well, thank you very much.
Alliance, the new album, Fire and Grace, sounds excellent. Like the recording of it, capturing the audio voice also is a very stereo-wise, it seems. What's your direction in recording this album?
Yes, we are very proud of the album, and we recorded this, as all the others, in Robert's studio in California. Of course, he's a terrific engineer/producer, as well as being a terrific musician. And so we feel very comfortable there, and to us, that's part of the Alliance sound. And to that end, we don't like sending tracks just back and forth in the email like some bands can do these days. We want to be in the same room at the same time. You know, turn up the amps and just play. And again, that's where we seem to get our best inspiration from.
And you can tell in this album, I mean, the quality is there. I mean, it's fresh, 2019.
Well, good. Again, for us, that's where magic happens. For instance, the title track, Fire and Grace, was a song that I had a guitar riff, and Robert had some words and a melody, and Dave had a great drum groove, and we just started playing it. I said, okay, here's how the riff goes, and come in here, and we started playing it, and the three of us wrote that song together, a 4-minute song. We wrote that in 4 minutes. That was it. We just played it, recorded it, done.
I mean, isn't the most beautiful stuff done in just that type of time, like just quick and done? When you look at great songs,
we've certainly heard other bands say the same sort of thing, that they have an idea and they go in there and just play it, and it falls together or it doesn't. Either falls together or falls apart. And certainly back in my days in Sammy Hagar's band with David Lauser, of course, that's the way we used to do it. Just all of us in the room at the same time playing. And like our last album that had, at least the last album I was on with the guys, which was VOA, which had I Can't Drive 55 on it, we all, again, were in the room together and played, and the whole album took us 12 days to record. That was it.
And that's a type of magic also, when you go into the studio and everything just flows and sounds good, good tonalities, etc.
Yeah, and of course, it's always great to have worked with the guys on stage before, too, because just those visual cues of being together in the same place, playing at the same time, speeding up, slowing down, because, most songs don't have or shouldn't have a constant tempo all the way through. You want to slow down and speed up for the chorus or the bridge, or hold back for a big accent or something. And those are the kind of things that, again, are best if you're all looking at each other and can feel that, like, okay, now, and then everybody hits the same chord at the same time.
Let's say for going into artwork direction, who's the guy that decides, this is going to be our direction, and our single is going to look like this, and the art cover is going to look this for the album, etc.?
That was the folks from Escape Records. And they had an artist, and they sent over some ideas, and we made some suggestions, but we figured, no, that guy's an artist. We're the musicians. And so we let him do his thing on that, and I thought he did a great job. Several people have commented how much they like the album cover.
Let's say you guys have an art director, etc., making this album, Alliance, and you guys got the artwork. It's not a band picture, because a lot of bands either take a band photo, integrate that as an album, or just some sort of art. And we know Boston always use, like artwork to make their album covers. So it's like, in a sense, you can buy a book by its cover, because it is a great cover.
Yes, obviously, I think you're referring to the fact that Boston has the spaceship theme on all the album covers. And we even take that, of course, on stage with us, too. Some of the sets and props and things like that show that same sort of cover art stuff all the way through our show. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, in a sense, that's like the thing is like the logo, the art. It just keeps on going, and that's the importance of the image.
Yes.
Now, let's say for guitar tones, do you have a go-to guitar tone that you always go to and say like, today it's not good, or tomorrow's going to be great, or it's always great? How do you look at it for guitar?
Yes, as far as guitar tones goes, obviously Boston has a very identifiable guitar sound, and so I did not want to use that for Alliance. You know, that I love that sound for Boston, but for Alliance I wanted something completely different. And so to that end, I built my own guitar amp for actually these last two albums, but Fire and Grace in particular. I used actually a couple of amps that I built. So I think I'm getting a sound that nobody else has, because nobody else has these amps, because I built them myself, you know, with tubes, you know, I don't know if you call them valves in Canada or tubes like we do in the U.S.
Yeah, tubes.
Yeah. So, so that's what I used on this record here. And again, I hope that it sounds like me. I want people to say, wow, that guitar tone, that sounds like Gary Pihl in Alliance. You know, that's what I'm hoping for. So if, and of course I will change guitars and of course change the settings on the amp too, depending on the song. And I try to use different sounds and flavors of that same sound on different songs so that they don't all sound alike.
Mm-hmm. Do you find it's harder now to promote an album, because we're not seeing platinum sales today compared to your times in Boston or Sammy Hagar? You know, it's harder to get your music out there in a sense to the mass public. Do you see that the same way I do?
Well, you're certainly right that the industry has changed quite a bit. Back when I joined Sammy in '77, things were quite a bit different. At that time, AM radio here in the U.S. was the king. AM radio played top 40, the top 40 list, and everybody was on that list. You know, not only rock bands, but R&B bands and pop bands. Frank Sinatra was on top 40 or whatever, and so that was quite a bit different from what happened just a couple of years later. That things really changed to FM being the king for rock music in particular, and of course at that same time there in the 70s, people bought albums,
right.
but they and of course vinyl. CDs hadn't been invented yet, and people bought records. And so, again, in '76, for instance, was Boston's first album, and it was the biggest selling debut album ever. I think it sold 12 million or something that first year, and of course it's gone on to do more than that now. But those were the days when artists would sell 1 million records, actual vinyl records. These days that just doesn't happen. There are a few artists that can do that. Taylor Swift or something can sell 1 million, or some other folks, but regular rock bands don't sell that many physical records anymore. Now it's all download or just listening, Spotify or Pandora or something like that. So the industry has certainly changed over the years. Some things for the good and some things not so good. As you say, it is different and harder to get yourself known, because we are available, or the whole world is available to us on the internet. You can hear bands in your area, but also you can hear bands from halfway across the world too. So it's in that sense, it's tough to to get a following if you have to try to reach everybody in the world.
In your genre of music, like melodic hard rock or melodic rock, do you find the genre is stable? And has a lot of clients that, want to look into the music and invest their time in discovering groups like Alliance?
Well, I certainly think that a lot of people seem to like melodic rock, and that because it, in a sense, it's like classic rock, that you can sing along with it easily. And so certainly there are plenty of classic rock, radio stations across the country here. And so that's why I think that people seem to like that sort of style. Although I don't consider Alliance a classic rock band per se, but again, I think we have that much in common, that we, again, are melodic. Again, people can sing along with our songs, and a melody that they can grab a hold of and remember. Those kind of things are similar. So I think that will continue on, that people like to be able to sing along and remember the songs that they hear.
And one question here, like on rock guitar today, do you find it still popular also, like let's say with kids learning and wanting to become a great guitar player? Do you see it still being the same adventure for a kid to get a guitar and play?
It's certainly different, and I think it's different in a good way. At one point, especially back in the 80s, 90s, well, I guess 80s really, where playing fast was the thing to do. So, like the more notes per minute, that a lot of young musicians, guitar players, thought that was the thing to do. But I think these days that's not quite the case, especially after in the 90s when the whole grunge thing happened. Guys didn't do guitar solos like that anymore. So that changed. And then now in the 2000s, a lot of guys are trying to be more melodic or interesting with guitar solos. And it's not just how fast you can play anymore, certainly. So that part has changed. But I think that, again, the whole approach to guitar is a little different, that it's not just being a virtuoso. Again, it's not just playing how fast you can play, but what sort of interesting sounds and styles you can come up with. So I would hope that young musicians would feel very free in their guitar styles, like that they want to come up with their own sound and their own style. They're not just trying to emulate their heroes from the past.
Yeah, that's it's a thing that we always look at, online and see the popularity and where it's going, and it's a good study to do in a sense, to know where the direction's going for guitar sales at least.
Yes, and I kind of wish I knew that statistic. Are there more guitar players these days, per capita than there were in the 60s, 70s, 80s? I don't know. It's hard to say. Do you have any sense for that? Are there more guitar players? Like, we'll just say 20-year-old males, what percentage of those guys play guitar today as 20 years ago or whatever?
I think the percentage...
what the difference is.
I think it went down quite a bit, actually, from the interviews I did with certain guitar players, and that's what they're telling me, because some of these guys do teach lessons, so we do see a different approach now with a guitar.
Yeah. And again, I think part of that was our culture, that the whole teen culture thing from the 60s, I'll even go way back then, because that was, again, our teen culture, and we wanted our own music. We did not want to listen to our parents' music. And luckily, at the time, there were quite a few radio stations, of course, that we could listen to with rock music or teen music. And even on television here in the U.S., back in the 60s, there were a couple of primetime TV shows that played popular music. One was called Hullabaloo, and the other was called Shindig. And again, as a young teenager, I used to watch those because you'd see the Rolling Stones or the Yardbirds or whoever on these shows, and it was fantastic to be able to see these guys on TV, because they didn't always come through town and to a concert or whatever. So it was great to be able to see that. So besides the classic of watching the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, that certainly made a lot of guys think, hey, I can do that too. and I want all those girls screaming for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, certainly the 60s were that, again, when we didn't have other distractions, for instance, video games. There weren't video games. So, that was one thing that, if you weren't into sports, get in a band and play music.
And look, a lot of these people, they became something great, and it's all because they didn't want to play sports or want to play music. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Gary, your album, just to finish off on this, I find it sounds great.
Thank you.
What's great is you can quickly go on Spotify, check it out. A YouTube promo video coming out soon for this?
Yes, you're exactly right. I just filmed some parts for it here, and I know the other guys did as well. So there should be a performance video. We've got a couple of lyric videos on the Escape website and our website as well, the alliance-band.com. But yeah, they're supposed to be putting together a performance shot so people can actually see what we look like playing and singing the song too.
Well, excellent stuff, and hopefully everything goes good. You guys make great sales and just great promotion to get something else going in the future.
Yes, thank you. We would love to do some live shows. As it happens, this summer I will not be touring with Boston. Boston is not going to tour this summer, so I'm available. And so I was, talking with Dave and Robert and saying, hey, let's get. That I would love to do some live shows this summer because Boston is not touring, so I'll be available.
Mm-hmm.
And David and Robert and I were talking about it like that. We would like to play perhaps some festivals where there are, a lot of bands, like 10 or 20 bands on a show. And those are the kind of places where the audience comes knowing that they're going to see bands they've never seen before, maybe even never heard of before. And so they may recognize us from our other bands, but it'd be great to play, again, some big show where people would say, yeah, I wonder what these guys sound like. So I hope we can do that here this summer.
And you're absolutely right. The big festivals, with multiple bands, that's where you got to be, because then you're being introduced to other, audience.
Yes. Yeah. Again, people that would never have heard of us before might show up.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Gary Pihl, a real pleasure talking to you. Hopefully next time, better connection. Yeah, hopefully next time we get a better internet connection here going.
Yes. Good. Well, thanks again. And if we ever come through your area, please let us know. We'd love to give you tickets to the show and have you down so I can shake your hand and meet you in person.
Well, that's awfully fine of you. And so you have a great summer, Gary, and we'll talk to you again.
Great. Thanks again, Jason. We'll see ya.
All right. Bye-bye.